My fellow citizens of all nations, body and the self. In a human being, we exist as a body, the body that has a physical, and there exists I, a self that is non-physical, our understanding of having no limits. So the body has clear boundaries, clear limits. For example, this is end of my finger here, and it is very clearly the end. But when we talk about the self, which is not seen clearly, it becomes confusing. Like, where is this self exactly, and where is the boundaries, and where is the limit of the self? Like, is the intelligent self that's speaking right now here or here, maybe here? Like, where is it exactly? Or here? Like, of course, we assume that we basically are here, most likely in our brain somehow. Where is it exactly? Like, there is no like clear definitive boundaries of the self, and the self really does not have this sense of mortality, while the body does. So there are these clear distinctive differences between the body and the self being the unseen world, and the body being clearly seen with boundaries. I'm trying to recall the earliest memory of mortality, or where I realized that I was the self, and it comes from very early childhood. For example, in my case, where I realized that I am also the body. Like, it's as a child, it's really difficult to comprehend that you are also the body, because I remember as a young child, at certain point I did not really have this understanding that I was just a body. Like, imagine if you did not have a mirror, and if you lived on a planet without a mirror, and with only ability to just see straight and never see your reflection, and without any limbs or etc. Basically, imagine like being some creature, just eyes that is not incapable of seeing itself. Like, if we were this type of creatures in that type of land, we would not really have this understanding that we are also a physical, a biological form. Like, for our eyes, if we could only see and not reflect on our physical existence, we would be a creature without boundaries, just observer. The weird relationship we have with the body, and I'm sure you had also the same experience, that we have this weird relationship with the body, and with this realization that, from a self that is limitless and just without any boundaries and limits, like, we become this physical creatures, and idea of the gender comes, which also brings like additional complications to this. Like, we're even more confused. We're like, what is this? Like, we become sort of incapable of understanding what is this gender right now, and why we are so different, and etc. And this realization confuses us like quite a lot of time. Like, there is no doubt that, for example, Mr. Freud, he claimed that the unconscious mind does not understand this. Basically, that there is a self in us, basically the what we call invincible self, or invisible, not invincible. Should we say invincible or indestructible? Like, there is this feeling of invincibility and indestructibility, like within us, like that self, that unconscious, that's incapable of understanding that we are just finite creatures in a finite world. Like, there's this sense of immortality which sort of passes on, and there is also a terrifying fear, unconscious in us, what's immortal, what considers itself immortal within us, to realize that the body we are in is destined to decay and die. Like, this is a truly terrifying, because like it terrifies us. Usually we quite skillfully suppress this feeling of death. For example, let's say without any threat of death, you come and ask me what I think about death, and I'm answering you that, well, it is not of great concern, because when I die, the world does not exist anymore, so it is absolutely no concern to me. But is it really so? Do you truly feel so? Because once you are dead, yeah, fine, but what about before the death? Like, the fear before the death, that becomes like truly terrifying, and usually we suppress the type of fear within us. Everything has limitations, and when we face the reality of death, it is truly terrifying. For example, we move through life asleep, and only at deathbed we wake up, but it's too late, because death is there. And there are interesting articles, quite a lot of articles actually, what people regret during their deathbed, and it's the fact that they worked so hard, or the fact that they spent so little time with their friends and family, or the fact that they never had the courage to pursue that or career, or etc. But it's too late, like when you are on your deathbed. So the self, the immortal or invincible self, has no sense of it. Like, it's truly terrifying. It reminds me of this idea that if you stare far enough into the abyss also stares at you. And there is basically abyss between the self and the body, because the body is going to die. And throughout history there were emperors, etc., followers of them, and to this day, actually, I'm talking about it as if like this everything doesn't exist today. It exists even to this day, that like the emperors that wanted to become immortal, or religions that promise immortality, then promise resurrection and promise all the good stuff to a good people, and etc. This stuff exists to this day. And these beliefs and these desires of different influential people, or different, should I say, population of crowds, to basically be mortal, like, shows us how people are truly afraid of death. The famous story of death and resurrection. It shows us how much we are afraid of death, and how much we don't want to die, because these beliefs and these promises somehow closes the gap between the mortality and the death. There are right now in this day and age, of course, there are still religious beliefs about immortality and etc., but there is also a new belief of becoming immortal and use computers for that. Like, we can upload ourselves to computers. But the question is, how much what we consider ourselves is truly creation of themselves, basically. How much invincible self and the physical self truly creates who we are in everyday life. And this brings us to an interesting point about the sexuality and the self, which we mentioned a little bit about already. When, for example, a person has a sex, for example, with a person, there is this feeling of, oh, why is this person with me? Like, does this person like who I am truly? Does this person with me for my beauty only? Is this person with me because I have this and that possession? Like, what does this person like in me? Woman might be wondering, is this person attracted to what's in me, like that? And generally, population and people usually wonder this thing, and somehow it is important for people generally, because if you are desired for your physical self only, then you are somehow feeling more of an animal rather than a sentient being. If you are just desired for your physicality only, like somehow you feel like you compare yourself to sort of other animals, like to dogs and horses and cats. Like, if you are just purely desired for your physical self, like, this is how we feel at some point. But I just wonder right now whether this is a cultural disease that exists, and if certain religious beliefs have twisted this sense, and maybe there is nothing wrong with this, and it's like maybe the feeling itself is wrong because the religion influenced it and the culture influenced it in a different way. But that needs to be analyzed far deeply to say that for certain, but maybe that feeling is wrong itself, that feeling is wrong itself, and there is nothing wrong when just person desires you for your body and for yourself as well, and it's totally fine. But is it fine or is it not? Now I have no answer for this. I don't have a definitive answer for this. Let's leave this for my future self to have this answer for that self. So giving myself a task right now, sort of. I hope my future self at some point will have answered this question. And basically that's it. The discussion ends with a question.